So getting back to how Mouse ruined comics.
Okay.
All right, 30 seconds. Your 30 seconds are up. No more boomer music.
Stop right there, criminal scum.
You know, I just realized something. So, Evie, out there in the world, if you catch this on the replay, I just realized where that "stop right there, criminal scum" line, that's Oblivion. And somehow I never picked up on it until this exact moment.
Really? That's like one of those early memes.
I know, but for some reason, my kids introduced me to, like, they have a whole series of videos people have done out on the YouTubes where they'll have real life interactions with people.
Right, yeah, with the Oblivion music.
Oblivion NPCs. And so, like, I'm fully aware of it, but for some reason, like, I hadn't put the two of them together until this moment. Hello, Taylor.
Who's Taylor?
Oh, I'm sorry, Cartoonicus.
Doc,
stay tuned.
Yeah. Well, in fairness, if people read the comic, we send them to you every week. They might have figured it out. Sorry about that. Anyhow, we weren't sure if you were going to make it today because I thought you would. We were thinking that you had to take the rest of the month off.
I honestly didn't think I was either until I found out at the last second that tonight's stream would basically be a summary of the entire series we've been doing up to this point. And we also discovered at the last second that the reading list included 7 different issues, and I have a project I'm having to work on. So I am here tonight entirely as the Peanut Gallery.
Unprepared. Well, that's awesome. It's the best show ever.
That's fine. You can ask some. It's always good to have. It can often be good to have somebody who's
probing questions.
Yeah, you can ask the questions that the audience would resonate with.
I don't know
that trope in storytelling where you have one person who's clueless just so you can explain to the audience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're our fish out of water today.
The excuse for the exposition. I don't know if he is still able to be there. My display says no one is watching, but Colin, if you're out there, hope you enjoy the show. We're all super prepared. We're excited to talk about the fall of the House of Brainiac. Spoiler alert, in this superhero book, Superman wins. So, in case you guys were really afraid about what was going to happen,
I was really worried about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I don't even know. I got to back up. Because I got to lead with this, but I'm so disappointed with this story. So disappointed with this story. Okay, so it started pretty cool, pretty strong. There was some weirdness because a Brainiac somehow had a whole city full of Lobos, a whole city full of Zarnians. Lobo, of course, is the anti-Superman that was invented by, oh, come on, what's his name? He did the Heckler. He did
Keith Giffen.
Keith Giffen. Jeepers. Yeah, the Heckler is my go-to.
It could be the only one person that you were referring to when you say the Heckler. So
yeah, that's very true. No, I don't think anyone ever used him after the 6-issue series.
Not true.
Oh, I'm wrong.
Not true. No. Patton Oswalt used him in Justice League, the Work Week, or Welcome to the Working Week.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate. Patton Oswalt. Okay.
I liked it.
Well,
there you go.
Well, I'm good. That's good. I'm glad that Patton Oswalt did something worthwhile in his life. So even if it's just a comic, I dislike Patton Oswalt. All right, anyway, enough about that. Geffen created Lobo as an anti-Superman, as a satire character, and hang on, I got to go for a second.
Okay. So I'm going to pull up some images for us to take a look at here. House of Brainiac, because we actually covered the first, I think, 2 issues of it. And the basic setup for it was the fact that we've been reading the Superman series, and this is a crossover event between specifically it's Superman and Action Comics, which is the two main Superman comic book series. Obviously, because it's one of those crossover events that have become so rote and commonplace in the superhero industry, it also includes a bunch of other tie-ins, which we're not talking about today. We're specifically talking about the two main, the main storyline that's covered in Superman and Action Comics. And then we're also going to talk about...
I did read in the tie-in issues in Power Girl, and I'm telling you, man, somebody needs to take, I think it's Kelly Thompson, her keyboard away from her forever.
This is just going to be one
probably
night.
Not wrong. Probably not wrong.
A whole night of hot takes, isn't it?
That's just in general, though, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was like she. Okay, so one of the scenes from that one, I'm not going to get into the plot details at all, except for one thing. Karen Starr, and if you don't know, Karen Starr, that's the civilian identity of, well, used to be the civilian identity of Power Girl. She's since taken on a second secret identity as Paige something or other. But Karen Starr became a multimillionaire by developing a software company because she's a super genius, right? And that was her whole thing. That's how she funded her lifestyle, was able to afford to be a professional hero because she'd invented like an operating system that just could run on the wheels. So she was like a girl boss. What's his name? Microsoft, Bill Gates, and that was her whole background. In this comic, there are some Zarnians who have this weird technology that is wreaking havoc, and so Power Girl can't defeat them because they're as strong as her. So she decides to use technology, and she builds an EMP bomb. So far, so good. However, she specifically states, "I hope I do this right. Technology isn't really my thing."
Wait, because like I'm pretty sure that in Action Comics they had some Power Girl stories, and they were having her speak. I think it might have been. It was either Kelly or Leah Thomas.
Whoever it is, yeah, I can't remember.
And she was
Leah
having...
Thomas is the male-female swimmer.
Who's the? Hold on, give me a second. I'll find it.
Yeah.
But it was basically like they had Karen start talking in computer ease.
Right.
She was talking about pointer errors and stuff, and it was like, that's okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's embarrassing. Anyhow.
I mean, up until that moment, I was thinking this sounds like a Spider-Man story.
Well, I mean, yeah, it could have been. I mean, that's all fine. Leah Williams, there it is.
That's why I said, yeah, Leah Williams.
Yeah. I was correcting myself by reading the thing out here. Leah Williams. So
are you talking? So is it Leah Williams that we're talking about here, or is it still Kelly? Oh, so it's Leah Williams. It was exactly.
Leah. I had said
yeah. So she's
Kelly
she's
Thompson out there. If you ever run into this, I'm sorry. I got you confused for some reason with somebody else. I don't know how. I'm sorry.
There.
Another cringy girl boss writer.
Possibly. Apparently, I can't judge that.
So anyway, back to Superman House of Brainiac. We're specifically talking about the two main, the main storyline that plays out in there, and we're going to touch on the House of Brainiac special one shot, which is, modern comics, man, where it's it's not just following one comic book series. You have to follow this checklist,
right?
And they actually put the checklists in the comics, to be fair. But then in addition to the checklist of like, oh, okay, if I want the complete tapestry, I have to pick up, Green Lantern number, whatever, which I believe does have, in fact, a tie-in here. But you also have to pick up like the one shot, which is basically a number one comic that they only publish one time. And if you don't notice that it's there, you wouldn't know to order it or pick it up. So Green Lantern 11 was the tie-in.
As everyone over 60 says, that's how they get you.
It's just ridiculous. Anyway, so the basic plot, as our viewers are to kind of recap, Brainiac has invaded the Earth, and he basically kidnaps a whole bunch of Kryptonians and other superpowered beings because he is putting together a very special project with basically the house of Brainiacs, all versions of him across time and space. So we got to see some interesting galleries of, classic looking Brainiac, robot looking Brainiac, and then they threw in a couple others for good measure. Whole bunch of Brainiacs, and he needs all of them on deck to build his ultimate creation. That's
and we'll
basically
discover
the pitch.
what that is momentarily.
Correct, and that's where this story starts to get
And so
We all-
and last time he Lex Luthor sacrifices himself to save Superman so that Superman can go get Lobo, because Lobo might be able to be reasoned with, whereas the other Zarnian mercenaries cannot be. So then Lex ends up on Brainiac's ship, and Brainiac's like, well, I should kill you. And Lex is like, but wait, I'm the smartest human on Earth. I can help you. And we had this bargain before with my daughter, remember? So you can totally trust me. And Brainiac says, sure, why not? And then and if you don't remember, back before the New 52, Lex had given his daughter to Brainiac to raise her in the future, and she came back from the future as a computer person hybrid who then grew up to be a young woman on an abandoned island.
She is also a super
blah, blah,
genius.
blah.
She's also a female super genius girl boss who's good at computers.
Well, and also
every third DC character, every third female DC character has to be a
Every
insane
third
computer
comic
genius.
book character.
It's
probably every fifth. In comic.
You get the numbers real accurate there. You were saying,
yeah. Well, and Lena had a place in the last big storyline because of Luthor's mom, who has a name that starts with an L too, Lori, Leola. It doesn't matter.
Liesel?
Liesel.
LYSL, I think.
No, that is Vril Dox the second's mom.
Well, it wouldn't that be? Oh, okay. But isn't that his? Okay.
No,
Oh, I'm sorry. I got confused.
No, yeah, we're talking about Lena Luthor.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
And her grandma Lex's mom also has an L name.
Yeah. Okay.
So I want to, before we head forward with this, I want to remind us how we were all guessing as to what Brainiac's, big invention was supposed to be. So I want to bring that up before we then go and see how accurate we are.
Okay.
oh no, we were totally accurate. He was building Bride of Frankenstein,
Okay.
but how that plays out is the key.
And the question and the why, right? That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Is that like God, this is so I can't even. Let's just say that we may never really know why. Moving on.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so have we recapped well enough to dig in to part 3 of House of Brainiac?
Okay, so we are on part 3. Yes, I think so.
Yeah. Lobo and Superman are attacking the ship and being attacked by sentry bots or somewhat.
Are we skipping the 2.5?
Oh, I guess we should hit that really quick. That was the House of
That's
Brainiac
the
special.
Yeah.
And it involved 3 stories, one of which was the background for the Zarnians. Am I remembering that right there, Twitless?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was that actually. I think I was thinking Hutch would be interested in particular in that because it kind of tells us what Williamson's current lore for Zarnians were, because they were supposed to be a peaceful group of people, and Lobo had killed them all. And so this was kind of the explanation for why there's a band or a city of psycho ones that are much more like the Lobo that we know. And so we got this expansion of the Zarnian lore, and this really weird looking scientist lady.
She looks like somebody out of Aeon Flux.
Actually, she looks like the school teacher from the first Lobo miniseries. I almost wondered if that was the point, but
okay.
Yeah. Remember the first Lobo miniseries was called The Last Zarnian because there turns out to be one surviving Zarnian besides Lobo, and it's his old school teacher, and he has to keep her alive, and he does all the way till he gets paid, and then he twists her head off. He did what he said. He brought her back alive, and then he kills her. He snapped her neck. But
So in the story, there is
and
one
she looked
city.
like that lady. Yeah, sorry. Go
Oh,
ahead.
maybe she's supposed to be. I don't.
It
I
might
don't know.
be, yeah.
Mhm.
There is lots of in the story. There is lots of like deep cuts DC lore that is going on here, and I on the one hand I appreciate it, the other hand I do not. So that definitely may be that lady. Anyway.
I appreciated again. I liked that we got a few more Brainiac character beats. The series as a whole needed a few more of them. So it was nice. Oh, hey, here's a little bit more of Brainiac's why he's doing this a little bit, because it felt like the series was just rushing through to its conclusion.
Yeah.
And then getting a couple answers to some of those. Oh, hey, this is why there's this random bunch of Zarnians that are like Lobo, and I don't think it broke the lore. I think it was like, oh, hey, there's this like, there's a little bit of probably some retconning. Essentially, it was like, oh, hey, but it wasn't like. It was fine.
Yeah. To be fair, you're taking a character Lobo who is always kind of silly. Like in one panel, he mentions, "Oh, I killed everybody on my planet," and that's not intended to be like a real backstory. Like it's more the kind of thing that Keith Giffen comes up with. And then afterwards you have to explain, well, if everybody can replicate themselves from a drop of blood, then how do you ever kill anybody, and blah blah blah. So it kind of, I like what he comes up with of they actually had immortality and not so much the replicating from drop of blood, but they did have you can't kill them. You can hurt them, but you can't kill them, apparently.
There's like a pocket essentially of malcontents, and it was like the last vestige of hey, we want to purge this from our society,
right?
And they get Brainiac to basically collect that bottle, and then Brainiac, of course, betrays and wipes everybody out.
And then it was going to wipe everybody out, but then he
almost does. That's right.
Yeah, he almost does. He stops because there is a father protecting his children with indomitable will. Yeah. And he's so taken aback at this reaction that he leaves, and then when he comes back, everyone's dead.
Everyone's dead because of Lobo.
Because of Lobo. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he's like, "Well, that was weird."
I do like that now that I finished the whole story. This does make more sense to me because this ties in with the payoff of the whole story. That Brainiac, I mean, all along we know that Brainiac is missing something. There was a reason why he has all these duplicates and why he's gathering every relative of his.
Right, and this kind of, like I said, this makes it feel like the story is moving toward some sort of reasonable, understandable, comprehensible, mentally and emotionally comprehensible motive for Brainiac to play on this.
In my opinion, this is where Williamson tips his hand that he really is a big fan of the Fast and Furious franchise. Because that's basically his one note through this entire run.
Well, sort of.
Family. It's all about family. Family.
Yeah, sort of. But we'll get into that later on.
Yeah, I don't mean to steal the ending, but I mean we know all along that basically, that's the whole thing about Brainiac is he does not understand love, he does not understand emotions, but he wants family, and he explains it away as, well, I need some things to run my backup systems, and I need some extra power, and I need some, some more processing speed. He won't say that he needs love. He won't ever say that, and he maybe doesn't understand that.
He did say, he has said in and I almost don't like that Williamson had him say this because I don't like seeing Brainiac saying, "Oh, I'll finally not be alone in the universe," and it's like, I'm Ronry, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just give me Corey Button as Brainiac as the computer. I much prefer that version than I'm so Ronry. But
so chapter 2 is special. Let's move. We'll move on from that, because we don't want to step on the things that come later. So chapter 2 of the special it's all from Bibbo's perspective. Bibbo Bidowski, if you guys don't know, he runs a bar, a sailor in a longshoreman bar in Metropolis. He's always getting into bar fights. He grew up around this bar, and this entire thing is a very thinly veiled testimonial about Mark Russell's derangement syndrome and how he's the only good person that he knows. And Mark Russell, screw yourself. This is the most shallow, worstly written,
It's
most
bad.
poorly thought out thing I have ever laid eyes on. In fact, right here, I'm going to show you this. Sorry for the noise. I'm gonna put my screen on. I wasn't gonna do it, but I'm gonna put my screen on here because I'm
I was
not
about to say, why am I the only person showing my face? And I'm
for various for reasons. Right here, because I'm in a mess today. This book right here, Press Start, Game Over, Super Rabbit Boy, is a more compelling comic book story than your crap that you put in that, Mark Russell. Screw you, pal. Right there. If you guys want to read a good book, Scholastic published a banger right here.
So
Cool.
I like the Bibbo. What I remember Bibbo most from was in Death and Return of Superman. Really just seeing Bibbo trying to kind of like live in a world without Superman. It was very compelling stuff. So I was like, and he's a cool side character in the Superman mythos, and I think he'd really fallen off. People hadn't used him much recently. And so it was cool to see him again. Unfortunately, he gets used to hammer home Mark Russell's political points. We won't go into a lot of depth there, but I will say
because there isn't a lot of depth to go into.
No,
it does. There's an infamous page that I'd known from the internet, and it's this page here. And this is the issue that has the infamous moment where you have the Eric July looking guy spouting the Alex Jones level stuff while the Elon Musk character with a Lex Luthor profile picture on Twitter is acting like. So it's very clear who is being taken shots, who the Russell and the artists are taking shots
right.
at.
And
Lexima. And notice the X is
right. Yeah,
not the L for Lex's chat social, whatever it is, but it's the X.
And so here's the thing. Go ahead, Twitless. I want you to read what we've got Alex Jones saying here.
Alex July.
Yeah.
So they have him saying, like I say, he looks like Eric July, but he's saying a memorific Alex Jones type quote. They're putting alien DNA in the chocolate milk.
Which is exactly what is going on in the DC universe. This is not even a secret. This is
yeah.
They are putting alien DNA in the chocolate milk.
I mean, of course. It's not necessarily.
It wouldn't be the first time that a character in the DC universe has put something weird in.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm saying that the point here.
It's not out of place. It's like we were talking about this over last night. This story makes zero sense at all because they live in a world where legal and illegal Terran and extra-Terran aliens coexist within this universe. They don't even just exist. They regularly invade Earth on and off planet. We're going to be seeing later on in one of these other books. There's a reference to Hardcore Station, which was invented by Jim Starlin like 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. But it is like a DS9 kind of a space station for space truckers.
More germane to this discussion, in this very issue, Brainiac has invaded the planet.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So like in context, this starts getting ridiculous.
Right. So in context of the story, and where you're talking about this, like this little Mark Russell like commentary is squeezed between two stories explaining how this alien invader is trying to kill the whole planet. Mm-hmm. Right. So any moral weight this story has is immediately undone by the fact that the characters within the story are dealing with an existential threat by an alien invader.
Right. And the story that follows it up literally has Brainiac in cahoots with the shadow government of Amanda, the Deep State. So the conspiracy is real. So portraying it as a joke is this is the problem, right? And it goes all the way back to the concept of Tony Stark can't be an atheist in the Marvel universe, right? Because like he literally is on the team with gods and they fight Galactus and space gods and interact with eternity on like a regular, semi-frequent basis. Mm-hmm. So this is the problem when you have a writer who's trying to make this fantasy world of superheroes too relevant or reflect reality. because it really starts to for allegorical purposes, right? Because it
And the other thing
falls
about this
to
is
pieces at the first glance.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything that Mark Russell is trying to say in the story had already been dealt with by the what crossover was it? The Invasion crossover in like 1987. It's done. You were born too late. You missed your shot. Shut up.
Well, he tries to make a very clear analogy between, the aliens are like space immigrants. But then, like I said, it's like you're a crazy lunatic if you believe in conspiracies. But then this is not a new issue. It's in the very same issue. It's like, here's the alien conspiracy. It's right here. So the Alex July character is actually underselling the extent of the conspiracy. And so that's what I'm saying. Like it's Russell's an idiot.
Yeah.
If I may,
Go ahead.
it's right here in front of you. Is it even a conspiracy?
Oh yeah, no, it is.
It feels like it's
It's
a failed conspiracy.
Yeah.
Okay. There is some failure in the level of the conspiracy, but that's the thing is this is all setting up the next event.
Right.
What, like I don't remember what it's called.
I have to say it's kind of
Ultimate
weird that
Gaffer,
there's.
I don't know.
It's like I've always lived in a DCU where there are aliens living on Earth. Kilowog is on Earth, and there's there's an alien here and there. But are there so many aliens that there's hundreds of aliens and they're working in your restaurants and they're it's like they're tending your bar.
Okay,
And that's the other thing. That's the other thing about this whole deal. The quiet closet racism that he brings to his parallel. Well, they're all of these aliens are working these entry-level crap jobs, and your life would be crap if they didn't work the crap jobs because they're crap.
Yeah.
All right. Where is it?
Screw you, pal. My God.
So
I can't cotton to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Let me find it. So to answer, I want to answer Hutch's question there.
Okay.
Okay. So the answer to Hutch's question is no, except until this comic. So to my knowledge, from when I started reading around the 1050s of Action Comics, the aliens have obviously there's a bunch of aliens because they're superheroes, but like the idea that they're just like working in the restaurants and patrolling, walking the streets, I don't think so. And I will say definitely during Williamson's run, it's just humans that we see on the streets of Metropolis. So it's only in this one panel that suddenly it's somehow established that there's just aliens walking the streets like regular, space refugees.
Well, and the thing about that is there's so many alien races in the DC universe that are completely humanoid except for like a few colors. So you're going to see, I mean, like Tamarins have shown up. There's been, like the Omega.
But they're not working. But they're not working in the diner. But in this story, that's because he wants to make that message. Suddenly they are. Yeah. So again, Russell's an idiot. Because and it's just it's bad writing, and obviously we want to talk more about this in another time. But I did want to just point out in terms of how this works for House of Brainiac. And how it ties into House of Brainiac, it really falls apart because it's like, oh no, poor space immigrants, and then suddenly, and having believing in conspiracies is only stupid people believe in those. Here's the actual alien conspiracy, and it's way more terrifying than alien DNA and chocolate milk. It's a world-shattering abomination that could end all reality as we know it, and we got your own shadow government to help out with it. How?
Once again, I would recommend go out to your local Walmart, your Barnes and Noble, whatever, pick up Press Start, Game Over, Super Rabbit Boy, and you'll have a better reading experience than reading a Mark Russell comic.
Anyway,
Well,
so Mark Russell,
I'm not sure at this point if you're actually saying that that's a good read or if you're trying to use it as irony.
No, I actually enjoyed it. It's fun.
Can I just say something
about a kid and playing a video game and the main character within the video game? It's actually pretty clever.
Okay, Rhys, we got to keep going. We have like 4 issues to go over.
I haven't had a chance to say anything about this story though. Can I just add?
Sorry.
I realize we're going to talk about it later about the politics of it, and we were talking about possibly doing a show about like comics that do political stories badly. The my side is smart and you guys are stupid. Where you don't actually have an issue that's balanced or presented fairly. We got tons of examples of that, so much that it will fill another show. But I did want to talk about Perry White in this.
Oh, okay.
That Perry White did not even seem like the guy that I know, because Perry White always seemed to be a guy who was in control. And if he's running for mayor, he should have some idea about why he wants to be mayor. And he just seems lost and wandering around and so stupid. And the way he's presented in here, he doesn't even know what to say. And it's like, you don't know what to say. If your side is right, you should at least be able to articulate something and not just say, you guys are con men and stupid. And it's like he goes in and he laments to Bibbo that he doesn't know what to say, and it's like he should be able to voice an argument for why he should be mayor.
There's
his
a
entire
theme.
job, right?
Yeah.
His entire job is saying what he wants to say.
There's a theme here. There's a theme here, Hutch, and the theme is, and it actually touches on, unfortunately, Williamson as well. Although Williamson was not responsible for that Russell story,
right?
But there's a theme here. There's a thread between Williamson and Russell, which is the idea of all heart, no head. And so there's this idea of look at this emotional situation, let your heartstrings be pulled. Even if I can't express the head at all or the intellectual argument at all, just look at this sad puppy picture and then I'll never have any borders for your country.
Right.
So
and your side beats up little girls.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But behind that is this assumption that there is no argument behind that the assumption, there's two, right? I don't have to explain, or I can't explain my side, but look, your side is bad because of emotions and sad puppy dogs. But secondly, there's this other assumption about the opposition doesn't have an argument either. They're just ranting lunatics.
Right.
And so that there really isn't an argument to be had. And this is where I'm going to have to say something positive about Bloody Mark Waid. Because even as bad as Mark Waid can be in Kingdom Come, this issue, this very political hot button issue, is in fact touched on during Kingdom Come, if I recall correctly. And Mark Waid was, I think, able to at least articulate in full sentences what the opposition was, even if he was portraying it as villains. So what I'm pointing out here overall is the fact that a more intelligent writer, even if he is on the opposite side, even if he's got a dumb idea, a more intelligent writer like Kurt Busiek or someone like Mark Waid is in fact capable, when they choose to do so, of articulating an opposition position and then even debating it, even in an entertainment form of showing a little bit of that argument. It's usually where better storytelling happens.
Right. The best villains are the ones who have an argument for their viewpoint, even if their viewpoint is wrong. It's like that's usually in better presentations what makes Lex Luthor compelling, when he has like an argument that we should not be owing our freedom to the benevolence of an alien who just shows up and pretends to like us and says he'll always be there. That's an argument. He's at least got some motivation that you can go, I can kind of see why he thinks that,
I think the king of this, but then we should definitely move on. But the king of this was Chris Claremont's run on the X-Men. Because Chris Claremont, when he had Senator Kelly, right? Senator Kelly was supposed to be the one, I hate mutants are bad. And during, during like Days of Future Past, essentially, there was this huge like Senate hearing about not just X-Men, but basically superpowered beings versus human beings. And Senator Kelly brings up the fact that, yes, we are afraid. And here's why we're afraid: because Magneto exists, because there are people who can end civilization as we know it, and we have no control over them, and we have no ability to keep up with them. Is Homo sapiens just simply going to be eliminated like the Neanderthal was? Obviously, we're going to fight for our own interests. And in that debate, Professor X was basically acknowledging this guy believes what he's saying. And if my job is to basically, and my job through the X-Men is to try and be the inspirational movement that's able to bridge this very real and understandable gap.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris Claremont had enough brain cells, because he's a good writer, he's an intelligent man.
Yeah.
He had enough brain cells and actually made the story more compelling, because Kelly was not just a lunatic who is an idiot or a coward. Kelly in that very story was brave, and he believed what he said, even if he was being prejudicial. And
Right.
the point was that the X-Men were meant to overcome prejudices, even if there were good reasons for them. That's compelling storytelling.
Yeah.
I also want
That's
to point
also
out.
why, as a non-Marvel reader, I've never been able to understand the whole mutant thing, because I understand that they want it to be the equivalent of, oh, this is, you know, about racial differences or about
I know what you're going
you
to
know,
say.
but yeah, when I'm watching the movies, I'm like, this Kelly guy's he's talking about how people can walk into bank vaults, they can walk through walls. That's a decent concern. And it's like, and then you every movie they add on, it's like, oh my gosh, so in the past somebody practically destroyed the whole planet because they're a mutant. These people are rational.
I
It
thought
doesn't
you were
make any
going to talk
sense.
about how they already live in a universe where
There's almost no difference
everybody
between
else has superpowers of all other sorts,
Well, yeah.
of other reasons, but you're only going to hate on the ones who have it genetically. for some reason.
Days of
Yeah.
Future Past establishes that's not the case. Senator Kelly brings up specifically like Doctor Doom and other people, like, so he's again, Claremont's a, we got to talk about House of Brainiac. Point of it is that I was trying to make is that there are writers who are much more, and this is something I do want to bring into House of Brainiac, is the fact that whether we agree or disagree with the political standpoints of an author, that author's intelligence will come through the writing or it won't.
Yeah.
And Mark Russell's lack of intelligence was screaming at us, because like he couldn't even keep the fantasy parts like in alignment.
Well, and I'm not, and I, you know, and I've read a couple of other Russell stories. I don't necessarily think it's that he isn't intelligent. I think that he is so he's so conceited that he can't imagine being wrong, and therefore can't morally imagine somebody else with a different perspective.
I don't know. That story comes across hella dumb when it's like conspiracies, and then here's the conspiracy.
Yeah, I know it'd be like that's the nature of the straw man, though. You can be a lazy thinker and still be an intelligent person. That's what I'm getting at.
Well, my point. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that, you know, it's not just about writing. What you've talked about here just explains the problem with all of politics in general, where you have to be able to get past the bias of just passing the other side off as crazy, stupid, evil, whatever it takes to not have to deal with having a conversation with them. And human beings are really, 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 really bad at even trying to do that.
Some are. I like there's entire, like, you know, forums of people who are devoted to it, that type of exchange. They just don't get as much press.
It depends on, like, you know, it depends on how dedicated to their tribe and the tribal mindset there are. And you know, Russell is a tribalist.
I get my to bring it back to Williamson. My opinion of Williamson was that I think there are a couple different types of writers. They call it a bad writer with good ideas. You can be a good writer with bad ideas. In this case, I think you can be either. My thesis was that you can have a dumb writer, not super intelligent, with smart ideas, or you could be a smart writer with dumb ideas. And I think that after reading a whole bunch of Joshua Williamson, after I looked under the hood of House of Brainiac, and after I saw how he wrote, how he scripted smart people, I went, oh, I don't know if Williamson's actually that smart. I think he has a couple of smart ideas that he's been really writing that really help him. But House of Brainiac's got some real dumb in it.
This is where my phone started blowing up last night.
This is real dumb.
My
Well, I mean,
phone
it takes a little while to get there in this story, but I mean, in this issue, but because it's really, I think, part 5 where it really falls completely off. But
yeah,
like, yeah. Anyway, we'll move on. We'll move on. So
even so, and I don't know where the rest of the panel falls on this. I was still enjoying the ride for the most part, up until I think you said around part 5 or so is when I was like, really? But the Superman Lobo stuff, the Zarnians attacking Brainiac ship. I was like, this isn't like super deep, but I'm enjoying the ride. It's fun. And Williamson's two smart ideas are giving his stories a lot of heart, and B, remixing things slightly, doing the riff. It's like it's the same tune, but he's kind of done it a little differently. We're like, oh, hey, this is something recognizable, but I'm spinning it off a little bit.
Yeah, and actually, the every fight is something special on here. That I will say that as far as the action goes, I really did enjoy the action. So let's move on a little bit because
some of that is. So right before we do that, I do want to give a lot of the MVP status in this series goes to Rafa Sandoval. And Miguel Mendo, mostly I think Rafa Sandoval, but the artwork here is, and I think Sandoval did he did I think the Action Comics, he did the Superman stuff, so he did House of Brainiac, and the speed at which I think he had to put this stuff out, and for it to be pretty nice art all the way through. I was really just bombastic and very detailed, kudos. I don't think this story would have worked even as well as it did without Sandoval doing some really heavy art lifting. So I just wanted to shoehorn that in there. Good job, Rafa.
So Superman and Lobo fight off the Zarnians that are trying to keep them from getting to the Brainiac ship, right? Meanwhile, inside, Superboy and Supergirl, that's Connor, Kent.
Oh, that's right. They were minimized. I forgot.
They were shrunk down. They had escaped from the pods, but they were still tiny sized. And there's some great comedy of them sneaking around the ship, depowered, trying to figure out how to do it. They run across these devil dogs. It's just fun, zany action. They end up freeing the Parasite and Livewire and convincing them to join them in the mission to try to escape it. So there's this.
Are they literally doing the angel devil on the shoulder thing?
I don't know if it's that so much, strictly speaking, but that definitely is a thing that happens, sort of, kind of. But they're riding along, and it's just great. This was fun comic book action, and that was my take on that one. So,
man, Brainiac has grown some muscles.
Yeah. Well, and depends on which Brainiac, because there's a whole bunch in the business here.
They brought him back as a Kaluan as opposed to a robot, they made him a brains and brawn character because he was trading shots with Superman in terms of strength. That's where they wanted. That's kind of the new take, the kind of contemporary take on Brainiac. He's going to be brains and brawn.
That's weird that you would do that with the Kaluan when he's normally a robot. Like, you could put as much brawn as you want in there. Yeah.
So they end up finding a way to try to de-shrink them, and then there's a frontal assault. I'm just trying to move along because I want to.
Yeah, we got a lot to cover. Yeah,
there's a lot to cover. And so basically, they discover that there's another bottled city that is right in the center core of it all. And what is this bottled city all about? And Brainiac's like, oh well, let me show you. So he expands it, and it turns out that it's a Kaluan city, and it becomes a crown for the Brainiac ship, which is amazing.
Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, the Brainiac again. Sandoval's like Brainiac ship art is top tier.
Yeah,
so that ship is big enough. It's miles wide. It doesn't look like it, but it's actually. I mean, it's big enough that the city can be full size on top of it. So it must be miles from one side to the other, and that never came across to me. I didn't realize it was that gigantic. So it's hard to do scope in space, I know, but
that might also be an editorial mistake. It kind of like we weren't paying that much attention to how big we were portraying the skull ship.
Yeah,
it's not exactly made to look big when your city is sitting on a skull.
Yeah.
My head canon, can read this as if Brainiac can shrink and embiggen cities, he can do the same thing to his skull ship.
Yeah.
So like in my mind, I'm like the ship basically adjusted its size. Like so,
okay.
I'm okay with. I'm okay with that. That doesn't. It's Brainiac.
So one of the things I want to talk about, all the stuff in this issue, right? It is so like classic Superman kind of stuff. I mean, I mean, the stakes maybe seem a little higher. The action is definitely more PG-13 kind of stuff. But I mean, there isn't anything in here that wouldn't have had its place in like a Bronze Age comic, Superman comic, with the kind of the level of it's not quite silliness, but it's definitely like next door to silly.
Yeah. At least so far. Yeah.
Yeah, so far. Yeah.
I do regret that. Why is Space Cabbie in the 21st century?
Man, that was the first thing that I was just like, you gotta be freaking kidding me, right? I stopped what I was reading. I had to go back and look and double check myself. Space Cabbie. Okay, for those of you guys who don't know, Space Cabbie is supposed to be a cabbie in space, shocking, in the 22nd century. Right? So like it was made in like the 50s, looking far into the future, right? So it's not supposed to be contemporaneous with the DC universe in any stretch of the imagination. In fact, when he showed up in Starman, which was like I think my first exposure to the character, was in their big time travel, the Stars Beyond Destination story, where Jack ends up going all through time, meeting like Jor-El and bouncing from century to century, and it was a great story. And he runs across the Space Cabbie in the future. So, like the fact that they're just like, I love that they bring in Hardcore Station. I thought that was super cool. Which, by the way, Lobo and Superman go to Hardcore Station and try to figure out where Brainiac is. That's what they're doing there. They're looking for the secrets and the thing. They track down Space Cabbie because people have loose lips after they've been drinking on Hardcore Station. So it would be a decent setup, except that Space Cabbie's in the wrong century.
Well, to be fair, Jim Starlin had, what was his name? The detective in the future that has the robot secretary. He actually had her. Jim Starlin had that guy and his robot on Hardcore Station in our time. So, and said that he had like a thing where he thought he was from the future. I don't know. It didn't work for me, but it's not the first time is all I'm saying. Is that
there you go. Maybe there's some sort of, and maybe there's some sort of temporal in abnormality around Hardcore Station that could explain all of that. Maybe that's
who knows. Yeah.
The other thing that I thought was really weird was that Williamson made a big deal about Hardcore Station being like sort of a flop and wasn't successful as it should have been, and so it's really run down and divey. And I'm like, I don't understand why it would have to be run down and divey to be used here. Like, I don't see why, you'd have to play that out there, because it's a truck stop. Truck stops have truckers. Truckers drink too much and get into bar fights. I don't see that there's anything that you would need to have that in there. But
yeah,
it felt like a dig to me, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So to again hit, I guess, the broad notes of this crossover.
Yes.
Like, Superman and Lobo meets up with this tribe of wacky Zarnians, and the leader, General Shakal, I think, says, "Hey, you're the main man, but can you be the main boss? You should join my gang, and I'll you can become the leader of it. I'm old and tired and going to retire, even though they're all immortal, whatever." So Lobo actually says, "You know what? I need a family as well. Family. This episode this crossover brought to you by the letter F for family." And so Lobo gets a family, and Brainiac wants a family. Everyone wants a family. So Lobo says, "I need a family." So then he backstabs Superman, and they capture him and bring him to Brainiac's ship. That's the kind of gist here. And now Brainiac can do his master plan of building his ultimate creation, which is this thing.
And this is the thing. So we called this, he's doing the Bride of Frankenstein thing. He's building a queen. That's why he's erected the city, because he needs to have a city worthy of his queen. And on the one hand, you're like, okay, well, what's going on here? This seems kind of like I kind of saw this was coming, but at the same time, like, what is the nature of this sort of thing? And man, this I don't think it's not this scene, I don't think. But
this is where I think this is the turning point where I'm like, oh, because all of this entire run of Superman, Williamson has like done these little vague kind of like J.J. Abrams mystery boxes. Ooh, what's in the box? Ooh, mysterious. And all that type of stuff makes you think that the writer is smart. These are things that because you go, ooh, what kind of mystery could and you read your own intelligence sometimes into the mystery box.
You're telling me that acting like J.J. Abrams makes me think he's smart?
Initially. The first like 4 seasons of Lost, everyone thought that Abrams was some sort of maestro of plot. Because how on earth could someone wrap all of these crazy disconnected threads together? It has to be some
Honestly,
sort of.
After one
It has
season,
to
I
be
was
some
sure he was
genius.
making it up as it was going along.
It has to be some genius. Well, it turns out that Abrams like has essentially made a career out of putting nothing in the box, and the whole point is that the audience is supposed to basically get excited and kind of do your work for you as a storyteller. And the problem with that type of storytelling is it never sticks the landing. So
and part of the deal too is like they already had a predetermined landing set in there, but they didn't have a way to get there with Lost. And they hired Jeff Loeb, who is really good at the long story. Mm-hmm. And if they'd have let Loeb write a different ending, it probably would have ended okay. Loeb's not without fail, but
that's fair.
He does a good job with landings typically.
To bring it back to Williamson had done a lot of like, peppering out. Ooh, Brainiac's deeper things are coming, guys. As I'm building a story with heart in those first dozen issues of Superman. And so I was really looking like, okay, where is he going to go with this? And this is where he ended up. He ended up with Bride of Frankenstein. And what is the Bride of Frankenstein going to do? Bride of Frankenstein is just going to be a mindless killing machine. And that's it.
That's it. And here's the oh my gosh. And here's the see I can find the line. After he starts tearing everyone up there, starts bringing up okay. So he sends off to destroy the Zarnians,
and the immortal Zarnians get utterly all murder-fried.
Destroyed.
Except for Lobo for no reason. No particular reason why not Lobo.
That doesn't show up until the next issue even. At the end of this issue, it's all just death.
Yeah.
Why do I get the feeling that Williamson has had some bad breakups in the past, and this is like a commentary on women?
I don't know why. Yeah, why is he this long-tongued monster? It's just very
right. Well, and then the thing is, destroys everything, and then Brainiac, whose entire purpose is to gather information, right? Mm-hmm. He creates this xenomorph to destroy and kill, and his response to that is, "You are perfection, my queen. What do you need?" And the comic ends, "More power," and I'm like, I don't understand what this is all about. Okay. Right?
So
I'm hoping. So this is the end of part 4, and it's totally lost the plot to me entirely. Right?
Yeah.
So I am like, what on earth is happening here? So so it starts off with Superman saying, "What have you done? You killed them, Brainiac." And I am in the exact same boat. I also don't understand what he has done.
There's a series of stupid things here. One of them is this line that Brainiac keeps repeating, and then it sounds again, this is where I'm saying I don't want to be mean to Williamson. I'm enjoying his run, but you can tell the intelligence of a writer. There's a saying, and it's that you can only write characters as smart as you are. Typically, it's very difficult to write a character who's supposed to be smarter than you because it's very hard to capture intelligence when it's orders of magnitude beyond what you can comprehend. Right. Mm-hmm. You can typically tell when a person of lesser intelligence is trying to write a smart character because they try to sound smart and then they just can't do it. And so Brainiac's been saying throughout this comic, I know you guys are familiar with this, but he says knowledge equals power, therefore power equals knowledge. And it's like, it doesn't work that way, buddy. No, I'm sorry. The sun is like a source of like incredible power. There's no knowledge there.
There is information.
This doesn't work. But but Williamson actually thinks it's a clever line, and that's actually the impetus behind. It's the impetus behind the Brainiac Queen, because the Brainiac Queen is going to be the ultimate power. Somehow that equates to her also being the ultimate knowledge.
Listen, Twitless, can't you just imagine what could be unburdened by what has been.
Oh yeah. That is what this is.
Yeah. So here's what he says: don't act as if you truly cared about the Zarnians, Superman. They were a necessary sacrifice. For years, I have hoarded, collected, and absorbed all of the knowledge of time, space, and the multiverse. Now I have brought something new into the world because wanton destruction never existed before. She is my masterpiece. So pay attention, last son of Krypton. Just as she did to the fallen Zarnians, my queen will devour you, your allies, and your enemies. The metahuman power I have acquired gave her life, but will not sustain her. Your adopted home will be the first to quench her unending hunger, followed by the cities that I have collected. And this is the thing. So he's collecting these cities so he can catalog the universe. But no, we're just going to destroy those. That information doesn't matter anymore. We will move from world to world, consuming life as you know it, and achieve my queen's final form. She will be perfection and unstoppable.
Final form. It's just like,
and if it means the end of everything, that will be the House of Brainiac's true legacy.
I've got it pulled up. Yeah, you can pull it up.
What does that even mean? Like, what does that even mean?
Okay,
I can't even imagine. Like what that like. Yeah, it is what could be, unburdened by what has been. It is the same kind of claptrap as that. It's just
word salad.
Word salad. It's word salad.
It's. I feel like it's an excuse to make.
You know what it is?
If Metal were here, Metal would go, and Metal would get this. But do I have anybody familiar with Dragon Ball Z?
Yeah,
I
watched
Cell. This is like that. That's the Cell. Her final form, and it's like this is Dragon Ball Z talk. And you really liked Cell, didn't you? So Metal, that's for you. That does, and then the design behind the Queen even is, I think, a little reminiscent of some Dragon Ball Z nonsense.
So, here's what I'm thinking. This dialogue.
Go ahead. And
Brainiac is a computer, right?
Sort
Not
of.
anymore.
I mean, he's
an alien.
Sort of,
he's an alien now.
Think
he's
of what
an alien,
happened.
but he's an alien, but he's not too. I mean, he's part of he's a neural network.
That's fair. Yeah.
Think about what happens though when AI art tries to make something like a hand, and it knows roughly what to go for, but it can't quite get there.
AI does hands now. You have to use a different example. AI has actually captured hands now.
Yeah,
but it adds too many knuckles and too many fingers.
You have to do an incredible amount of work to get AI to do anything perfectly right. There will always be that lack of understanding there. And I mean, I don't want to necessarily assume that this is what Williamson is doing, but it's kind of interesting to think of it that way, that like Brainiac can't actually properly, put into words his thoughts because he's a computer and they're humans. And
there's actually another reason, kind of, but it doesn't save the story. But I have to point this out though. He needed to collect. This is again where I go. Williamson is not. There's a real lack of thought here. Whether it's intelligence based or the fact that Williamson is writing too many comics. He writes a lot. He's writing G.I. Joe right now. So like, to me, I think it could partially be this guy's whipping out this stuff in first drafts. Mm-hmm. But I do need to point out that Brainiac is this 12th level intellect. He can almost do anything he wants with science and technology. And in order to power the Brainiac Queen, he needs to collect a bunch of Earthling super metahumans, and because she won't have enough power otherwise. And again, this is very poorly articulated, but if we're talking about power as in like energy or fuel, this guy has the skull ship. Like, I can't even imagine what's powering the skull ship. I know this guy could, Brainiac could create some Dyson spheres. Anyone familiar with Dyson spheres?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically the idea that you would create a metallic sphere around like a sun and absorb power from it with like trillions and quadrillions of like solar panels or something, and you just have like the sun basically be a power reactor. And it's like Brainiac could probably daisy chain a bunch of Dyson spheres. So what is this concept of power that you speak of? Why did you need to kidnap a bunch of super Kryptonians and go, oh, she needs more power? Dude, hook her up to like, the source wall. Like,
yeah. Well, and the other thing that doesn't make any sense to me about this is that they're just devouring and destroying things. But the framing feels like he's trying to write a new take on the Borg, where they're absorbing the essence of all of the universe, right? But she's not consuming the things that she's destroying. Like the Zardians there's a pile of dead bodies there. It's not like she's actually like there's no like, it's not like she's just like becoming one with their essence or absorbing their life force.
What you're saying, Rhys, what you're bringing up is
there's a mythological disconnect from all of this, and so what you have, instead of having this kind of joining with the essence of something else, you've just got the destruction of the something else.
There's a real lack of thought here, and it's either a lack of intelligence or it is a lack of effort, and I don't know which one is worse. But
I don't understand how an editor could say here and be like, oh yeah, that's really good, man. It's just like I don't know who the editor is. I don't know if they just spend their days we
have discussed this. There are no editors.
I don't understand what's going on with all this, man.
Editors are a myth.
Yeah,
Editors knows this.
Editors are a myth. Well, they could use more myth. That's the point.
There you go.
There's a distinct downfall of
so the problem is
it's not clear in what way is she consuming their energy when she kills all these Zarnians, for instance. What is she actually doing to them? It just looks like she's killing them, but somehow she's taking their power or something. It's not even well thought out.
And then there's no explanation of like how they're undoing the immortality code. I mean, like that was barely touched on at all in here, and why like he makes a lot of mention about, oh hey, they got the secrets to Zarnian mythology, immortality, and that was given back in the ancient past or whatever, and so he's got to access this and that's.
But in what way is that transferring or helping the queen?
Yeah, but it's just mentioned as a plot point. There's no
I'm sure he's assuming that we're all familiar with the whole draining of life force concept.
No, hold on.
It's one of those things where
hold on, because it doesn't. To add to this, it doesn't even make sense on that point because of this page. In this page, Superboy uses his tactile telekinesis to just screw up the ship a bit. And that alone is enough to depower the queen. So technically, she's just running off the ship. Even though the whole point was she's supposed to be stealing power from the superpowered people, even though they seem to still have their... none of this...
And even before that, we knew that was going on because one of the other reasons they explained, and this actually was clever, they explain the reason that he's brought together all of these duplicates of himself and all of his like genetic experiments duplicating himself, the mechanical duplicates and the biological duplicates. The reason he did that was because he needs to network everybody into a neural net because he's got too much information and he's starting to forget things. So he needs to network all of the Brainiacs together so that he can keep track of all their information.
For processing, I like that. That's fine. I like that for processing.
Why? Really can't you just make more hard drive space?
It needs to be Brainiac hard drive space, which is why Lena Luthor needs to be there because she's part Luthor, part Brainiac from this whole backstory. So she can be the slave drive to the whole network, right? That's something unique about her. So that was actually really fun. That was plot in there. But the problem was like that plot point should have been in issue 2.
Yes. That's what I was about to say. That it's like, why is he suddenly calmly doing that after his bride has died and all that? This is all out of order. This story does not.
Well, the plugging her in happens before the bride.
Before this, but it's like that should have been like as soon as he had her aboard, that should have been the first thing he did was plugged her in.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Despite them being a neural network, are we supposed to believe that each Brainiac doesn't necessarily know what's going on in different areas of the ship?
Yeah,
one of the other things that they've left in the story is that then they've talked about this, and this was clever. They laced this a little bit here. So there is a gap in Brainiac's knowledge, right? And that gap in Brainiac's knowledge has led him to have hiccups in processing through things and his memories and stuff. that gap in his knowledge is heart, right? It's the little Indian fellow with the ring
From Captain Planet. Yeah, he's missing the
Captain
heart.
Planet.
He's missing the heart ring. Yeah,
He's missing the heart ring, and so because he doesn't
missing
have the heart,
family.
he's missing his family. He's missing all that stuff, but he doesn't know that that's what he's missing, so he can't even process all of it. So anyway, because he's missing this, he's having these hiccups in his processing, and that's causing hiccups in his memory sorting because he's running into something he should know, and that's throwing him off, right? And so that's what causes him to try to create the bride in the beginning to begin with. Now that all seems like just on its face, okay, that all makes a lot of sense. So you need to create a bride for yourself, okay? So does he go through his vast knowledge of history about what a bride is? No. He just creates a xenomorph, you know.
Right. So this was this was the line here because the Brainiac Queen gets depowered temporarily because of the ship. Because nothing, if you try to think about it, because of the lack of thought of cause and effect between what's being set up, you're supposed to just go with it. And there's a level of that in all superhero stories, but Williamson is breaking the bank with it with House of Brainiac. And so you really just have to unplug so much of your brain for the Brainiac story, which is ironic. But this is the line here where I started to really think that Williamson is not smart enough to write a character like Brainiac. Here's the deal. Okay. So smart people do not ever have to actually, this is something I learned, and it really was a turning point in how I scripted intelligent characters. And sometimes it's nice to have a smarmy know-it-all, but to be a smarmy know-it-all. But typically, the smarter a character is, the less that character has to actually inform you that the character is in fact smart. Smart characters just speak on another level, and by their actions and their deeds what they can pull off that they're intelligent. Sherlock Holmes doesn't really need to tell, I'm smart, Watson. I'm very, very smart. Did I tell you how intellectual and brainy I am? In fact, Sherlock Holmes doesn't even think he's that smart. Sherlock Holmes thinks that what he sees in reality is elementary. That's where that line comes from. And so, and when he walks the process through to Watson, Watson thinks it's simplicity itself. True genius is taking something super complicated and being able to, just effortlessly do it, demonstrate it, and in some cases explain it. When people who are maybe some of these people are insecure, when they try to write smart characters, and we see this a lot in Marvel now, but it's like, I want my character to be the smartest girl boss ever. So the character will constantly remind you how high their IQ is. Or say lines like, "You are not smart enough to know what I need." Right. I'm sorry. Brainiac should never, ever, ever say a line like this. This is the stupidest thing for a smart person to say. And this is not the only time Brainiac will say this line or a line like it. And that's when I really had to take a step back and go, okay.
And so here's one of the things about this, as dumb as that is. Well, and in this place, I think it actually makes sense because of the follow-up, right? Then you've got his family that he's abandoned, right? His descendants, his children, his former wife showing up and being, you missed the obvious,
where did these guys come from?
They're from all over DC history. I mean, they've been in some of the backup stories.
But here they literally just showed up.
No,
we've been skimming. There have been backups we've been skipping over.
We skipped over one of the backstories, like a small story of Brainiac and Son, where he grabbed Vrildox and from Legion and Rebels, and I don't know at what point he attacked Earth. That must be some story I haven't known in the last.
Even so, if that's a backstory, they still haven't been here on the ship until now.
They were grabbed.
They were. Brill was shrunk on the Koluan city.
Yeah.
So let me just recap. The other Koluans have been mentioned in some of the in the issues. In the basically after we get through the main story of that issue, there'd be like a little backup story, and it'd be like, here's what's happening to some other Koluans that Brainiac is collecting and putting on his ship. So we decided to kind of breeze past that because it's there's still so much to talk about.
Right.
But they show up.
Yeah.
Right.
But but the artwork was so bad in Brainiac and Son that you could not make out what was. There was like black shapes, and he goes, "What? Laurel docks?" And it's like you can't see anybody. So. Yeah, this is like the first good look we've had at any of the other people that were in that other story. Yeah. So
here's the Fast and the Furious moment. Family.
Right. Well, and here's here's the thing about this that I got to say though, right? Like this scene is great, right? So Brainiac says, you're not smart enough, and then he said, then Vril says, "How can you be so smart and miss the obvious?" Right? And that's a great scene, right? And then here he is. Wanted to be reunited with his wife, who he'd cast aside to become Brainiac, and everything, and that's and then this whole scene, and then it's immediately squandered because the next time we see the let me skip past here. The next time we see them, like 4 pages later, they're just mindless drones that are pounding away at the super family.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like that meant nothing, and it's like if there's ever a moment like that, you'd think the way it was leading up, okay, so what Brainiac is missing is that he has no heart. The Tin Man has no heart. Here is his opportunity to realize what he's done, that he's cast aside the one thing he needed to make himself complete, legacy, a family, commitment, love, and what does he do? And it's not even explained that that's what he does.
Yeah,
right.
You don't even get to see it. It just happens off panel.
It's not explained that that's what he's done, and it's off panel that he turns them into mindless drones. But they're acting like mindless drones, so clearly that's what must have happened. But that's at the beginning of the next issue, I guess.
Let me pull up the.
No, it's actually the very last story page on this one.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Let me pull up the finale here. So because we do want to bring this to a merciful close at some point.
one thing really quick, the way this story ends after that scene is that Lex plugs himself into the Matrix to try to save his daughter.
Right.
So
I got that pulled up. We could take a look at that on the next. I got a shot pulled up.
Yeah, and there is a little backstory that we're skipping in which he is talking with his daughter and kind of going over some of their history and stuff, and it is just as even explained. It's still just as confusing. It's like, so she grew to be an adult, and then she was given back to Lex as a baby again. And I'm like,
right.
What? Wow. There's
that's actually in 352. She was de-aged when they undid the City of Tomorrow event, when they took all the Brainiac tech away from the city.
Metropolis.
She was de-aged to being a baby again, and then she wasn't seen again for a while. And then
Cartoonicus would like it though, because it is a 1-to-1. It's a Lex story and Lena story, and Lex basically talks about how much basically the Tin Man has no heart arc that we didn't get with Brainiac. We get to see it in those pages with Lex and Lena.
Yeah,
and he tears up, and I don't know if I liked seeing Lex that bleeding heart, but I will say that it does. Again, it's Williamson doing the note that he knows very well, which is to make these stories have pure pathos to them, and and it works to an extent, and it culminates here with Lex going, "I'm going to basically sacrifice myself to plug into the neural network mainframe of Brainiac's brain and shut it all down."
Which it's super noble that he does that, but it also doesn't make any sort of sense because his daughter's brain is actually designed to do this. So all he would need to do is say, "Hey, Lena, just get up there and say 3x times 4a."
Right.
The Johnny Speed, the Johnny Quick formula.
3x29y4a. Yeah.
There you go.
Everything you know about.
And then just say go ahead, get in there and say the magic words, and it'll shut down. Because this is the thing. Because it's cool that he's willing to sacrifice himself, but she doesn't even interrupt him and say, "Dad, I was engineered for this moment. I got this." And that would have been a really fun father-daughter moment without taking away from either character's heroism.
I would have liked that scene to then end with Lex saying, the risk is too great.
Yeah.
Like just the chance, because like the fact she was plugged into him, and he's like, and Brainiac's like, this will kill you. So like Lex, maybe if Lex just acknowledges, like, I know this has a high chance of killing you, so I'm going to do this anyway, even though I have,
Yeah.
That'll work for me.
That would have been fine. But it is cool to see Lex really take this to heart and do it for his daughter. Was neat. So
Yeah.
50
Unfortunately,
bucks says that Lex comes back with Brainiac in his brain.
No, actually, the opposite happens. He comes back with nothing.
No, I'm saying in future issues.
who knows? We'll see. Move on.
This led to another dumb moment where Lex is now drained.
That was the worst. That's the worst device used in any story.
This broke me.
So there's a meter throughout the rest of the story that says intelligence level and it's countdown %.
Yeah.
And it's just like that's not how intelligence works, man.
No, it's not. And even if it did, even if you were doing it that way, what should be happening is as his intelligence starts to drain, his dialogue should be like reflecting that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he should start sounding like Cro-Magnon or something. Like,
well, and the other thing about it is like, and it's like the difference in intelligence, right? It's like going broke. It's a little at once, it's slowly and then all at once.
Once, yeah.
So there's
this is the only good bit of writing that I just went, that's good, where Lobo takes all the shrunken cities and shrinks them into a shrunken city so that they can carry all of them. Like that's smart. I like that.
Oh, that's what is going on. I didn't understand that's what was even happening.
Is that what he did? Oh, that's smart.
Even that part is not great because it isn't well explained. You guys,
right.
And I had to look at it 3 times before I figured out what he did.
Yeah, I just walked on past it. I'm like, whatever, it can't possibly matter.
Yeah, exactly.
This is where some spelling it out would be great, because it would actually pay off better because you didn't even realize what you saw. It's like somebody needs to say, we can't carry all of these cities, and then Lobo just goes, hey, how about this, and says it. We put all the bottle cities in one bottle city, and then so they're doubly shrunk. I don't know. I think that's really brilliant, but it's not well communicated, and that you could say that about this whole story.
Yeah.
There's a lot of smartness here that is not well communicated.
I might argue with the amount of smartness, but I do agree with the poor communication. As
a writer, this is what's bugging me, is that the whole story has a theme and a payoff. The theme being that Brainiac doesn't even know that he needs love. He's kind of getting it, but he's like, there's a gap. There's something I can't see. And it's because he cannot experience emotion. But when he sees that father who's trying to save his kids, even as his whole planet is doomed, it's like there's something, he sees that, and it's like, what is it about this? And it's like there's a theme that needs to go through this and have a big payoff where they explain it to him. It's like, you're never going to get this because you can't understand family if you can't understand emotion and love, but the problem is that throughout this story, like 8 times, 10 times he's mentioned, I have a flaw, I have a thing, I don't get it. And it's like, you need to bring that up once and have the explanation, it's like you build and you pay it off. You don't keep, it's like we could tell in issue 1 kind of what the problem is. It's like we're already seeing it, and he keeps mentioning, I've got family, I'm building a wife. He goes and gets his son. It's like, we see all this, it's not, I'm having trouble explaining this, aren't I? But it's like,
I think you're doing a good job.
this should be building to a one-time delivery of the message, not this trickles through all everywhere, and it's never paid off right.
I think what you're saying synergizes with what my analysis for this story was, which is that Williamson comes across to me. I can't make this judgment entirely, but he comes across to me as a dumb writer with good ideas. Because there's a good idea here, and I agree. You're saying that theme, and you're right. there's a good idea here, but he's not capable, or he's not demonstrating the capability to pull off that idea. Because to pull off that idea requires the structure that you would need to then put this story together like an architect so that you could reach the payoff in a satisfying fashion. That is what an intelligent writer does when a smart writer has a smart idea. That's what the smart writer does. So
And
we've got like,
things that,
But
like,
is it an intelligent writer or is it a skilled writer? See, everything you've said tonight basically just makes me think of how I talk about George Lucas. And that is a brilliant kid with incredibly creative and deep ideas who never learned how to do anything. So he doesn't know how to make those ideas a reality.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
everything we've said about this is the same thing we've been saying about every other story, like how the Chained kind of is going for something. We kind of know what he's going for, but it's not communicated right. It isn't paced right. It isn't done right. And it doesn't have a solution the right way. And it's like, we get what he's going for. And then there's so many things that we like about his writing, but it isn't structured right. It really needs an editor. It really needs a better editor.
Definitely. And one of the things that I think we have too there is it feels like this is an intelligence issue within the story, because that's the nature of Brainiac's conceit, is that he's all about knowledge and information and intelligence.
It shows very glaringly, because this is the other time where it's here's the smart character, Brainiac intelligence level, my smartness level's at 25%, dumbest thing ever.
It would be, and especially because you're not forming coherent sentences if you're at 25% intelligence.
You should be talking like Bizarro.
Yeah,
Me,
right.
I'm intelligent diminished.
But let's even with the idea, even with the assumption that with 25% intelligence, he's still super smart. The fact that once again, the second or third, this is multiple times, at least the second time, where Williamson is choosing. This is again what really told me is that a second time the smart character now has to not show us how smart he is, because nothing Brainiac has done in this entire silly crossover has been smart. Right. Not a single thing he's done has been smart. And so so now he has to tell us. He has to tell the audience, even with my intelligence diminished, I'm still 1,000 times smarter than you. That's the dumbest way to have a smart character be smart.
And the thing is so frustrating to me about that too, with your talk about information sciences to begin with, it's just like there is no way that a person, that a being that could claim to have all of the knowledge and time and history, even if he wasn't personally capable of emotions, wouldn't be able to see that emotions and commitment and sacrifice are part of a fulfilling life, because that is exampled in the DC universe on every planet, virtually every planet across multiple galaxies throughout time, thousands and millions of years. It's nonsense that he wouldn't understand that was what was missing to him. So the idea that like
he's never read a poem before. You know what I mean? Like, I collected knowledge from centuries. I know exactly.
When Vril Dox comes out and says, "Dad, what's wrong with you? Can't you see what you're missing?" That we don't get a moment where he actually is communicating that, other than, "Dad, I thought you had this, Dad." Later on, he's just like this petulant little teenager. Because we can't have Brainiac have an actual moment of self-discovery. And that's the thing. It's just like, I don't understand why Williamson would want to deny the reader of that. I mean, on the one hand, is he afraid of being overly simplistic and insulting the reader because it's so obvious, or is he wanting to let the story speak for itself?
I want to give an example of a couple. Go ahead.
I was going to say, in that, what we end up having is a story that's nonsensical because and emotionally unfulfilling because nobody's saying anything about it, right? So like the Marvel Civil War movie, right? Everything is Tony's fault, and no one ever tells him about it. That was so unsatisfying in that film. And then later on, I allowed myself to believe that later on Tony would get his telling too. Later on in a later movie, somebody else would or he'd come to the realization. But no, he gets to go out with the hero to save the universe when it was all his fault to begin with. Way to go.
I wonder if what he's trying to do and doesn't have, it's hard to do some stuff in comics sometimes, is just to have a completely tragic moment where he'll never be able to get what he's looking for, and so he's completely missing what is right in front of him.
There's
He's
some
missing
again,
that connection that otherwise would happen.
Williamson's not smart enough to deliver on that concept, and I'm sorry. I am settled
You said
on
he
this
writes
at this
with heart.
point. Yes, exactly. But let me give another example about how you can use, because like Williamson was able to write intelligent Lex by having Lex be very secretive and never really telling you what was actually on his mind.
Right.
And so that's the mystery box writing, where you go, wow, this guy's really mysterious. He seems to have plans, but he's not telling me what they are. And so I'm able to imagine how smart he is. Arthur Conan Doyle, when he did The Final Problem, has Moriarty and Holmes. And first off, these are two brilliant people and they respect each other. So like I said, intelligence tends to respect intelligence and not just say, me smarter than you, Hulk smartest one there is. That's how a stupid person imagines intelligence. But secondly, what Doyle does is Doyle doesn't have the two of them whip out their notes and compare notes for 100 pages. The two of them just allude to what they've been doing. That's been very smart. And because they're being kind of, elusive about what they're actually doing, it comes across way smarter than it might have been if Doyle had actually just spelled it all out in that conversation. So the point I'm trying to make is that writing intelligent characters, you could do it even if you're not a super 12th level intellect. What you need to do is understand that if a character is supposed to be logical, like Brainiac, even if he's got some glitches, that there are things that he should be doing that should make cause and effect sense. And you should be able to like comprehend that as a reader. You should be able to go, oh, I see how A led to B, and this other this surprising thing that C came out and caught me off guard. That would be a good way of writing an intelligent character. Having a guy just say how smart he is and I believe in logic without showing a single piece of logical thinking is it's insulting. And at bare minimum, Williamson should never touch Brainiac with a 12-foot pole ever again. He is not capable of writing this type of character. It is embarrassing.
And it's and one of the things is too is it's just like you go a little further on here, right? So Superman has escaped. He does his Superman thing and saves the Colon City, the whole business. Brainiac says, "I will follow you," and then like he goes on a speech about how everything dies and he's got to do something that won't die. He needs some sort of legacy, and so he finds the queen, the Brainiac queen, which of course is the concept that doesn't begin to make sense, but let's ignore that. Sure. He says, after all the knowledge I have stolen, I felt a hole inside of me, and I knew I too would die someday. So I tried to create something that would outlast me, something new. I give you all that I am, and I may be gone for now, but your story is only beginning, and shunts her off into space. And it's just like, there's nothing about that is new or interesting.
He's just he's just doing the and again, this is like, this is half clever, I guess, because it's this scene is just, oh look, this is Brainiac doing the opening of Superman's origin story. This is him, his doomed planet or his doomed ship, and he's sending in a rocket. And it's like and Williamson's trying to do this mirror of like Brainiac is finally captured in even in a small way what Superman is in some I'm still not entirely sure how it all works out, but that's what Williamson is trying to do here.
I guess they're planning on bringing her back.
They are. Yeah, no, that's the next crossover.
And then it's like, yeah, but she's just like another Doomsday. She's just a giant thoughtless monster. And maybe next time she'll have, 4% of Brainiac's intelligence, and so she'll be just like some normal chick out there, who's some 4% of Brainiac. So she's probably like really good at math and stuff.
I want to know what did you think of it ending in this sort of like poetry? It rhymes with Brainiac acting out the Jor-El.
Oh, is that what he's doing?
Yeah.
So I had to rush through it in order to get here for the for the discussion of it. So I was trying to figure. I just know that they couldn't find the queen, but I don't know. I guess it. I don't know. I didn't think much of it.
I'm doubling down though on my idea that he was trying to make it tragic, considering this.
He kind of is, but again, tragedy is the Greek tragedians, like Oedipus and so on, Antigone, like these were smart people, and they understood cause and effect, and
It's definitely more of a comedy than a tragedy, though. That's the. No, I'm serious. Like if you look at like
classical comedy,
classic comedies, they start good, they get bad in the middle, and they end good. And like everybody's arc is like that. Even Brainiac's arc is like that. Because it's not like he may have been doomed, but he wins at the end. He gets to pass on something to the future.
That's still
you're talking
you can do that
original, I thought you meant like our modern.
No, he's talking about classical
interpretation of the word comedy.
I'm okay with Brainiac has a bit of a tragic arc. I would argue, but
see, I don't know. Nothing he did mattered at all, and everything was just fine. I think
the attempt was a tragic arc. We'll go with that.
I want to ask a question here. In this continuity, was Brainiac responsible for the destruction of Krypton?
No.
Okay. So there's no mirror.
It's so hard to tell because you don't know what the true backstory is for the guy. Especially with we've never gotten an answer for why he has all these alternate versions of himself. I mean, I can understand having duplicates, but he has, here's the Milton Fine version of me, and here's the 1960s version of me, and here's the 1984 George Perez version of me, and it's like, why?
Well, they actually do explain that in a couple of conversation bits. They're really quickly glossed over. Some of them are versions of him that he sent out previously. They're not really him. They were versions of him for specific missions that Superman defeated, and some of them are from other dimensions.
He's doing a multiversal thing.
So he went into other worlds in the DC universe and gathered up some versions of Brainiac from those worlds that he could find, and some of them, like Milton Fine, was apparently, and this one is like an example, was a project that Brainiac had done on Earth.
And I don't like that. That's what Williamson does, but there's so many other problems at this point. I just had to focus on the bigger points. The last point of this story, which is to answer Cartoonicus's question, is that Lex technically survives his encounter, shutting the intelligence of Brainiac down, but he is completely mind wiped at this point. So he is as dumb as Brainiac has been this entire series.
Guys, I know you didn't like it when I did this last time at Clark in workout gear, so I'm really going to try hard not to start screaming at whatever I'm looking at.
Oh, derp face. Lex's derp face or Superman?
No. The last panel also Superman looking like a Bob Liefeld character up above.
No, he looks like John Wayne.
Whatever is with that Superman face looking at us.
It's John Wayne. It's a John Wayne face. That's what it says to me.
Everything is horrifying on this page. I'm going to have nightmares.
But that's the end of. That's basically the thankfully end of House of Brainiac. Now, I've said some very critical things about it. But to get into wrap-up thoughts, I do want to say I was still smiling and enjoying the ride. I still enjoy Williamson's lighthearted romp fun. I think that he should stay in his lane. I think his lane with like the Superman series we read, where it's just kind of more simpler stories, and he's not having to stretch those brain cells. And it's like, hey, here's a riff on Parasite, and here's a riff on this new, Weird Al Yankovic looking character. I enjoy that. It's fun, and the heart of it carries it through. But by golly, when you're trying to write a character as detailed and supposedly intelligent as Brainiac, this was painful and embarrassing. And I enjoyed the ride still, and so I'm conflicted because I was still like smiling and enjoying the punching and the fun and the laser light show and Superman being Superman and having heart. But every time Brainiac was supposedly doing something, I wanted to die. That's my wrap.
Honestly, I hate Brainiac as a character.
I love him, but like not this version. Hell no.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was really disappointed with this as a whole, and I'm really glad that it's over with. I even went, I don't know why I read this, like I said, I read the Power Girl tie-ins, which were, they were bad, but they were bad in that, like, B movie sort of way. So at least there was that. But yeah, it was unfortunate.
I have to say that for all the time spent on this series, I mean, this is a lot of pages expended to tell this story.
Yeah.
And I'm beating a dead horse at this point, but it's like he could have taken 4 pages, 6 pages to have Brainiac recount who he is, his backstory. I mean, just Kalu. I don't know what the story is with Kalu. Did they have a revolution where the computers overthrew the humanoids, or did they absorb the humanoids, or now supposedly Kalu is destroyed? All this stuff there's little sentences here and there, and you can kind of figure out some things, but it's like, I need to know, who is this guy? What is the story, since the John Byrne, Milton Fine, the Mark Wolfman, Milton Fine thing is no longer apparently part of his story, but then he shows up, and it's like, and the 50s guy is not the case, but he shows up, and it's like, and the animated version is there, but he's not from Krypton. So, but he has, and for ages they wouldn't let him steal Candor, and now they've made that part of his backstory. He has Candor, and it's like, I just want to know what the story is. It's like, and he could have spent 4 to 6 pages telling us his story. It would be great for new readers, and it would be great for all the old readers who have no idea what the story is in the DCU anymore because they keep rewriting it. And it's here they've finished, and they've pulled in all these people, and it's just the same as how there's, like, 8 Kryptonians that he has to constantly sideline in order to just put the focus on Superman. It's like, at the start of every story, it's like, okay, and here's the kids, and here's the Chinese guy, and here's the and they're all off on they're all camping. So
They're getting ice cream today.
They're all going camping so that we don't have 8 Kryptonians messing up our story. It's like,
another one of Williamson's really good ideas. Like I said, he's got some good ideas, and
but they're always here. And he's always having to mention them. And it's like, just trim this down. There is a reason why John Byrne wanted to have the last son of Krypton, and not last son of Krypton, but also there's thousands of other guys. So,
well, I mean, and I feel really mixed about that, because, like, the idea of Superman having, like, a big family, like Clark and Lois, like, settling down in and having, like, 6 kids.
Yeah,
there's something, like, ridiculously appealing about that. But I think that, like, to manage a cast like that, it takes a skill.
Yeah,
and most writers just don't have it. They don't got the stuff.
But this is the same problem that the Batman universe has. That cave is way too loaded with people. When they try to start showing, Batman, the Batman family, and it's like,
that cave is 1% of the DC universe.
Yeah. It's like, and who is, it's like they start bringing in all these characters, and then the Batgirl and all her subsidiary, or Batwoman and all her characters, and it's like, this is a big crowd that he can draw on. And it's like, it used to be Batman and Robin, and then Batman and Robin and Batgirl, and then now they have 5 Robins.
So now I didn't want to get into this tonight, but I will, since you brought it up, I will say that modern Marvel and DC have fallen into what I would call the syndrome trap from The Incredibles. And it's basically this idea of that's really veering away from the exceptional individual. And it's veering into this idea that not just that everyone is special, but that everyone is Batman and everyone is Superman, and anyone can be Superman and Batman because they're the most popular ones. And the syndrome from Incredibles being, when everyone is super, no one will be. And so there's this attempt to democratize superheroes, but it ends up it sucks all the life out of them, and just makes, the Spider-Man's just one of a million different Spider-Man. And the first one was a black woman, of course. which they've done with Captain America, by the way. Like they've now established that as part of the lore. Captain America isn't the first Captain America; it was in fact this black guy who was super oppressed. So it's just like it's that impact where it's like it's not just that there's Superman last on a Krypton, or even Superman and then building a family over time in issues or whatever, and maybe having a cousin. It's the fact that everyone is Superman, everyone is Superman, and everyone is Spider-Man, and it's like it's this nice, very feely good moment for like a Halloween costume party. But when you try to construct a superhero story with stakes in it, the first thing, as you just mentioned, that you have to do is find a really stupid idea to make everyone go away for ice cream so that you can actually tell the story about the one exceptional character that people actually want to hear about.
That's right. Yeah.
What's funny is that the Green Lantern Corps was doing this 40 years ago.
So Green Lantern's able to do that because Green Lantern can basically send them because Green Lantern's not about Earth. Green Lantern is about the infinite expanse of space. So you can kind of like they have this convenient little cheat where it's like, well, that one we have all these Green Lanterns, we can spread them all across the galaxy. It became more about the uniform as opposed to just being that one exceptional individual after the Scott version. So, but when it comes to characters like Spider-Man and Superman, and Batman in particular, that trinity of characters, it's always been this character has been this one exceptional individual, and everyone wants to be, him. And they've taken that and tried to make it, like I said, essentially a Halloween costume that anyone should wear.
Yeah.
How much of this has to do with the ability to sell action figures?
Not really.
Yeah, I don't think so because people don't buy.
Comic books have ceased being like mass market in the way that like sells toys.
Well, the point to even zero in on that, people never buy the action figures of that. When people say I want Batman, they want the Bruce Wayne Batman. People don't buy Batwing action figures en masse. They don't.
Right. That's right.
And they don't buy the Chinese Superman figure either. Like they're going to buy good old red and blue with the underwear on the front. Like that's what they want.
Like they like Red Hood and Nightwing. Right?
I don't know. I don't know. The Red Hood really sells as much, but you know what? Batman with the hook mounted on his head for mountain climbing, will sell more than Batwing will.
My point is, if you throw a dozen darts at a dartboard, maybe one will get a bullseye. And so if you just keep throwing them and throwing them and throwing them, some of them will become popular and sell.
That's kind of the argument behind Miles Morales, I guess, but it's not worth it to dilute the brand as hard as they have because you end up. I think it costs way more than it's worth.
Yeah,
I'm not arguing that anything these big companies ever do is smart.
Well, it's funny you were talking about how the costume is just a costume now. It's kind of like with Batwoman, the TV show, where they had one character take over for Batman just by adapting his costume to fit her. And then after that first season, they ditched her. And then some total other woman just comes in. And because she has the Batman, Batwoman costume, is able to do Batwoman stuff. And it's like, Batman didn't have, a decade and a half of martial arts training to do what he does. It's just like, no, it's just a costume. Anybody can do what he does. You just got to have the grapple gun, and that's it.
It'll be perfect when it fits a woman.
That's right.
The tale of that.
Is that actually a line?
Yes, it is.
That was a line from the show.
It's like the tagline of the show.
Yeah. Well, I suppose we got to end our show soon. I know you had to go.
Yep.
My dog is telling me to go to bed.
Do we have any? This is a good endpoint. Does anyone have I guess up to shill, right? Shill time.
Oh yeah. Well, hopefully I will be back to uploading comics here real soon. I'm taking the week off to try to catch up on stuff. So ideally, new Rabbit stuff over the weekend, and hopefully Forces next week. So that's what I've got going on. Hello.
Oh, Dog saying hi to my dog.
My dog is saying hi to something, that's for sure. Anyway, coming up in October, if you are in Western Nebraska, check out the High Plains Minicon in Scotts Bluff. So that's that's crazy. Hey, Colin in the chat says Shill Emerald Man. He just had the craziest issue ever. I need to catch up. I'm still back on issue 9, I think. But yeah, that's what I got.
Well, I can say just please subscribe to my channel. I got some more stuff coming up. I've got a very special episode planned in hopefully the next week or so, maybe a little bit more. I'm gearing up for it with. Sorry, my dog wants to talk. Gearing up for it with some stuff that I'm putting together, some editing stuff, and my wife just had to leave for a week, so I am a bachelor for a week. So it gives me some time to just spend my entire weekend doing editing. So that's what I'm going to be gearing up for it. It's going to be a very special episode of. I'm going to have a guest host, and I won't say anything more because I'm sure I will be able to promote it next week or whenever we next get together. It's back to you. I love that.
Your line of being a bachelor for a week disturbs me. I'm like, that's not how that works.
Yeah, well, my bachelor life was pretty uneventful, so I'm back to that.
Back to Hot Pockets.
That's right. I'm staying at home on my computer, not going anywhere. That's what my bachelor life was like.
Sorry.
Are you going to start editing a fanzine again?
That's right. I might have to put that together again.
Colin asks when the next Omega Girl is coming out. I'm trying to put finishing touches on it this week. I'm hoping to send it off to printers, start getting a proof copy. So I'm hoping. I've had a lot on my plate, and I got artwork for the issue after issue 5, so issue 6. So 5 and 6 I'm hoping to get out pretty shortly. So check that out. Check out Super School that Cartoonicus and I are doing. We're doing driver's ed applied to superheroes. It's gonna be hilarious. So check that out. Check out Classic Superhero Adventures with Omega Girl, and that's all I've got.
And my game is taking for freaking ever. And Twiddless managed to convince me that, whatever I do with that in the future, I need to be getting something done and out now that I can get out instead of having to wait for an entire project to be finished. So I have opted to convert this thing into a webcomic that will be available on Tapastic fairly soon. I think I've got maybe another. I do have to go away for a week, but so I'm thinking a couple of weeks to a month I should have this ready. I just want people to be aware of it. Of putting my link in the chat, which also, of course, brings us to our Super School comic on Tapas as well.
All right. Well, Rhys.
Rhys is on mute. Do you know you're on mute, Matt?
I did not realize I was still on mute.
Oh.
There you go.
Whoopsie. Well, anyway, that is the story. Hang on, I'm going to copy this into the thingamy for the dealio. Here's a little link of me. Next week's show, half of everybody is going to be gone. So I think if we can pull it the last minute, we might be able to have number one Marmaduke fan on to talk about his comic. I'm not sure if we can schedule that on short notice or not. Or we'll talk about something else. I don't know. I know later this month we are going to be interviewing Bosch Faustin, which is exciting. And so look forward to more random comic book stuff next week. And until then, get out there and read some more comics, because what else you doing? Okay. Hey, wow, that's there's a real pupper. Okay, we'll call it. Good night, everybody.
Bye.